Brook, Glossop and Renmark, all these Riverland towns once had a railway connection to Adelaide, and it all started here at the heart of the system at Karoonda. We're going to go exploring these Murray-Mallee lines today and show you what remains in 2022. Most of the trail out here is more like a dirt bike trail. It's just a sandy path through the mallee, but yeah, there's obviously little bits and pieces remaining. So here we are at Marama. We are out into dirt road territory now. Passing storm with heavy rain meant I had to hit the highway to reach Pabinga. Right, well I made it to Pabinga again, out here just 2 kilometres from the Victorian border. This line closed in 1990 and ran 106 kilometres from Karoonda. Stick around folks, because coming up is day 2 Karoonda to Loxton and Barmera. Halidon is a perfect example of the way the railways grew the Murray Mallee region. They were essential for communication back in the day when they were built. They were built sometimes 30 or 40 kilometres apart, and they were built to connect a string of villages like this one. Behind me is the Tukayurta Grain Terminal. Once the Loxton Grain Terminal was in the centre of town, but the line was cut back to the grain storage facility here. The last grain train left here in 2015. It's interesting that they should have a yard limit of 15 kilometres an hour, because I reckon that was probably the speed limit along the entire line for most of its later years. But anyway, we're going to head past here and head into Loxton in just a second and have a look around there and see if we can find anything that remains of the railway line through the town. Cheers. I guess some of the stockyards where you can see some of the infrastructure that is still there. There's some stockyards just over the hill. Looks like it was a raised siding, whereas this main piece of rail that still leads into Loxton is down below that livestock siding. Now here's something I've never seen before. This is the lightly laid 41-pound line with the steel sleepers laid across the sandy soil, and it changes over into the 60-pound line laid on wooden sleepers and ballast. It's an indication of the way the lines were originally laid and the way they were upgraded as time went by. I'm here at the Loxton Historical Village. This is a museum and historical display on the banks of the Murray in the town of Loxton. It's well worth coming down to the riverfront and checking out. Now, they've got heaps to see, including this old RX class engine, number 55 from the Islington Works. It's the kind of engine that did millions of kilometres on the Murray Mallee railways. These guys have done a great job collecting history and dragging back some of the buildings and some of the signs from all across the Murray, and we can immerse ourselves in even more of the railway history of the Murray Mallee here in Loxton. So bring the family and enjoy. The road and head back to Paroona to rejoin the Barmera line. Well, we've made it to Maryborough, not far from the Victorian border. This was originally the terminus of the Brownswell line way back in 1913-14. It was extended to Paringa and then finally Renmark and Barmera. So this would have been the way that you needed to come through from a lot of the central Riverlands towns. It's characteristic of a lot of the towns in the Murray Mallee. You've got a couple of massive silos over there where the railway ran past, generally a single line, because trains would run one day on a Tuesday, for example, and run the other way on a Wednesday. Still a lot of the buildings remaining. Not sure how many of them are abandoned. There's a few people around. There's remains of a general store. There's the hall. There's another general store and perhaps a motor mechanic, which possibly doubled as the post office. A thin strip of bitumen in the middle of nowhere. But anyway, we're going to continue on exploring this line all the way up to Paringa and around to Renmark and the rest of the Riverland. So I hope you're enjoying it, and keep on following the railways here on Outdoor Stuck. You know, it's towns like Taldra. I wouldn't really call it a town, it's a bit of a settlement, and you know the drill. It's got a post office box and a hall, a place that was probably once a general store and a mechanic and a school and everything all at once. But as you're driving out here on the undulating Mallee Plains, you start to learn that you can spot the next town or settlement from usually a few kilometres away, because you can see the silos looming on the horizon over the wheat fields. So it's emblematic of what this railway was built for. They were built to haul the wheat that the settlers came out here to plant back to Adelaide. Anyway, we're nearly there. This is Taldra. We're just about to hit Yamba. If I can find it, I'll try and show you where the branch line once went off to Mertho in anticipation of construction of the Tooele Dam. Not long after that, we're going to get to the Paringa Bridge, which is probably the one major engineering feature of the Murray Mallee line, so that's well worth seeing. We've made it to the Paringa Bridge over the River Murray between Paringa and Renmark. It's one of the few lifting bridges still crossing the River Murray. It was completed in 1927, and it was only then that the line all the way from Karoonda could cross the River Murray and head across the river flats to Renmark. This is the site of the old Renmark Railway Yards. You know, I've driven past this spot for 25 years, I reckon, and just saw this old crane here and never really took notice of anything else that was here at the time. Who knows, there might have been rail back then. But it's only been now that I've started exploring, and there's just so little left of it all. So what I'm trying to do is preserve what is left, maybe try and show a little bit of the shape of it as it exists in the towns these days. Okay, so we're between Renmark and Berry on the Sturt Highway. I always knew this section was going to be a bit difficult because by the looks of Google Maps there's not much to see of this line. I guess it was the earliest part to get taken up. Plenty of it has been built over by all the new industrial and commercial development surrounding Renmark and Berry in the last 40 years or so since the line was closed. So this might be a very short section. As you can see here by Google Earth, there's literally nothing left in Berry at all. I even stayed in the town for 2 nights, but I couldn't find anything. Okay, well, we've made it to the end of the line at Barmera, and like so many other lines, there's next to no trace of anything remaining. In fact, what was remaining has now been taken up by industrial land and new housing developments. So this was where the old railway yards were, and perhaps a station and all that back behind me, but I don't have any history on that. All I know is the location. This line from Berry passed through such productive country. It passed the Berry Estates winery, the old Berry fruit juice factory, snaked through the vineyards. The vineyards have even expanded and taken over some of the old route of the railway. The trip from Barmera to Adelaide for a regular passenger was about 11.5 hours. Now, given that I can get from Barmera to Adelaide more likely in about 2.5 hours by car, it's little wonder that the railway was closed and the highways took over. So that's it for the Barmera line. We're now going to go trace the Marook line, or the Yinkanni line, which headed back down to Wanby. Then we'll be back in Karoonda again and back up to Waikerie to trace that line. So stay tuned. We're here back at Karoonda 2 days later. We've done the big circle around the Riverland lines, and now we're about to cover the last one, the Waikerie line. Right behind me here you can see the Loxton Line railway crossing, and just to my right behind me here you can see the broad gauge lines that remain across the road to start the Waikerie line. This 119 kilometre long line closed in 1994. We're going to head up to Waikerie and see what remains of it. Well, here we are in Galga. Once again, one of those deserted villages with nothing but a silo and a stock loading ramp. Again, like these towns, there used to be so much going on. Apparently this place had 2 motor mechanics, a grocer, a general store, a rifle club, a district hall. There's now a country fire service here still. These places would have been busy back in the day before bulk handling of hay grain. we've made it to Waikerie. And thanks for tagging along with me on the journey. We are standing on the cliff-top edge right by the railway silos where the Waikerie railway station once was. There's absolutely nothing remaining now aside from that rail remnant that you would have seen in the street there leading across to the Nippy's factory. Look, I'm not a historian, I'm not a former railway engine driver, I'm just a bloke with a couple of cameras who enjoys exploring and following railway history. So if I missed anything or you didn't like anything, please let me know in the comments, or if you did like it, hit the like button and let me know what you liked. There was lots of shots that I thought I might get that I didn't get, and there were shots that I got that I didn't think I'd get. So, you know, things vary once you're out in the field. But no regrets, because a lot of these places that I've been to are so out of the way that it's very unlikely that I'll make it back again. But I will continue exploring South Australian railways. I think next up might be the Yorke Peninsula Railways. So if you did like this video and you want to see more, then subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified as soon as I release them. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Thank you. Welcome to Good Chats, where things go wrong right from the first get-go, where, yeah, I turned all that other stuff off, and then I forgot to turn my mic on. Yeah, I've started again. Because I can see your chat quicker than I think the video is getting out to you guys. So, yeah, you know, just part of the course around here on Outdoors Type, that's for sure. And live streaming until you've tried it, if you try it, you'll know what I'm talking about. So welcome. If you don't know what this is about, this is Good Chats, and I do this on Outdoors Type here every Wednesday night at 8:15 p.m. For everybody who's here primarily, and this small but growing group of, you know, history enthusiasts, railway enthusiasts, people who enjoy a bit of banter, and looking at a bit of history as well, which I've got a bit more of tonight because I have been doing a lot of research lately on the next up and coming lines. And the reason I played that Riverland video was because during the week, one or maybe two people engaged with this video and made a couple of comments on the video from 2 years ago about Carter, I don't know how you pronounce it, out there on the line to Pibinga. And in that video, I talked about how I had to give Carter a miss because of the rain that was coming over at the time, which was just insane and turning all the roads into mud pits. Yeah, that was an interesting reason to review that, because the old railway line is still really obvious through that area, and apparently very popular with dirt bikers, and apparently was a better way through to the main road sometimes when rainstorms like the one that I was out there and experiencing had occurred. So yeah, this is the kind of stuff we talk about on Good Chats. Also, so I went to a bunch of libraries this week. I've got some more images to share from that. I spent some time in the State Library. Then I borrowed some books, so I've got some more books of the week to talk about. Yeah, we got talking about Carter, and that was on my list here, but it kind of came up very early, so there you go. And after much rejigging of this weekend's calendar through Anzac Day and onwards, there's a bunch of things that I've had to do to rejig. I was originally planning to go and do some of my first scouting for Port Augusta and the Pitchy Ritchie Railway and check that out. But I had to rejig things for a few reasons, and one of them was that on Sunday I'm going down to the National Railway Museum to meet a bloke who's going to show me around the archives there, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the way that all works and how, you know, when I might ask for photos or something like that, as I was getting last year, how that might all work and might expedite the process of getting permission to use the photos in the way that I have been doing without, needing to do it so explicitly. Well, obviously you give credit, but you don't need to seek permission explicitly every time. Yes, that's really cool. Kate is still definitely on the list. It's on my list further down the list, but probably going to happen next year at the rate things are going. The exploration of and further exploration of some of the old railway station precincts and areas around the Murray Mallee there, that would be really cool. So we should hook up, do an explore. And of course, there's Anzac tomorrow, but we'll talk about that later. So hopefully I've set up these images this time. I've set them up in a slideshow here in Okay, that's because I created this scene about 15 minutes before the stream started, and I failed to add my microphone. Oh, man, tell ya. So that now that's set up. Hopefully that's working fine. But hopefully that was enough to indicate that I'm talking about GMH Elizabeth again. I'm talking about I've found more images on Flickr. And I am still steadily sifting through the collections of the likes of Baytram 566 or something or other on Flickr. So it's always worth when you're doing image searches or some archival searches of looking through Flickr, and you can reach out often to the creators and ask them permission, which I did with Baytram and Damien Hill there. So yeah, it's some people have really huge collections of photos on there worth checking out. G'day Shano, welcome aboard. And where did I find this state? I found this on a rail forum somewhere. I don't know whether I can zoom in on it. I probably can't because I'm doing this in a slideshow now. So there you go. There's just so many things with this program. Maybe I could probably just drag the window out. That'll probably happen live too because I'm in live mode at the moment. And we'll move that over there. The year of that photo. I would have it on file somewhere. But to be fair, I'd have to go. Actually, to be fair, if I used it, I'd actually have to go back to Baytram and get some idea. But I reckon it'd be the 50s. Well, it would have to be somewhere between the 50s and the 70s. There you go. That's a good guess. Okay. This is going to mess the whole thing up, whole slideshow now, I bet. But anyway, well, I'm streaming. But there you go. I did the Penfield line a while ago. I also did the Finsbury line, which included some stations along the old Wingfield station. Yeah, cool. Yeah, STA. This map, yeah. Oh, this map is. Hang on. I should have also 1985 is the date of the map that we're looking at right now. So, yeah, the Finsbury one doesn't appear on there, obviously, by now. But some stations certainly appear on there that were around in 1985 for some reason. And GMH Elizabeth is the one that, yeah, I'm targeting at the moment. So, probably going to have to, I don't know, Control Z all those changes just to get us back to where we were before. And then go to the next slide. So, here we are now. We're in the State Library now. No, sorry, we're in the National Railway Museum bookshop for this one, and I was looking at an Adelaide Railways book there, and I found this image in one of them. So I took a photo of it because this is obviously an image that belongs to the National Railway Museum. It's credited to John Hoyle, and yeah, I'm going to go hopefully into the archives and have a look around. And this is certainly one of the images that I'm going to be looking for that shows red hens and jumbo trains and a whole bunch of workers at the Holden factory. I don't know the date of this image, which is kind of what the whole project is to go and find out. And now we're in the State Library. And I was looking through, they've got a big collection of modelling the state railways or something like that, or modelling the South Australian Railways Convention. And anyway, that's another very confusing set of books that they have in there in the South Australiana section of the State Library. And while I was in there, took a few photos and stuff like that. G'day, Kingsley. How you going? So while I was in there too, I took a few photos of some of the images. There was another book, an illustrated pictorial of broad gauge South Australian Railways, I think was the name of it. I did post it somewhere, which is also there in the State Library section. This is a not for loan library. Oh, g'day, John. Welcome aboard. Well, there's one of John Hoyle's photos, and I'm hoping that I can find more, because if he was there that day and this is in the collection, there's a likelihood that there may be others, so we'll see. Now, this is a little bit naughty, but I do this too when I go researching in the library, and I'm taking photos now of just random photos, I suppose, I've found in some of the books and some of the readings that I was doing as I basically read through every railway book that they've got on the shelf at the State Library. So here's Avenue, and those who follow my videos, and I certainly follow my videos, I remember the shot that I did of the old Avenue station along the Kingston line. So I really like seeing these scenes brought to life with like cars, with like brake lights and carriages and stuff actually happening. And that led us on to Kingston, and by the time I'd finished my drive out there... That's funny, O'Malley. Did you Google that number or something? So yeah, here we are at Kingston now, which was looking decidedly terrible by the time I'd finally made it to Kingston after 3 days of driving. I don't have a date on. Don't have a date on this particular pic, but and there was a date on the particular pic, but I didn't take a big enough shot of it. But yeah, this obviously goes back a fair way. And then we go to Millicent, which was another really amazing shot as well, which gave again, if you saw my Mount Gambier or when I was out there doing my Mount Gambier line videos, photos like this are really hard to come by. This is why I took photos of them in a book that was probably published in the 80s, and the point needs to be made that these photographs are still in copyright, which is kind of only why I do them just here on the live stream for people. So yeah, it was all set up as a radio station. It was just interesting to see what buildings were on all the footings and all the concrete pads that still remained around the area. This is a shot which really interests me too, because it was a shot that I did in the video that I showed at the beginning of the stream. And this is the 3 lines heading east from Karoonda. And so on the right, you've got the Pebinga line. In the middle, you've got the Barmera line. And on the left, you've got the Waikerie line. All broad gauge lines spreading out. And this is taken just the other side of the highway crossing at Karoonda, on the eastern side of Karoonda as you head east, I guess you could say. And so when I looked at that in 2022. Obviously, the Pibinga line, there's no traces of that anymore, but there were still traces of the other two lines there. That's really interesting, Andy. Now we're getting to it. The Pibinga line had its own football league. One of the few train line leagues. That's really, really interesting. And this is why I love my stream, man, because I learn so much from everybody who comes onto the stream as well. And that is the Pibinga Line Football League, train line leagues. I hadn't even considered that. You know, I've been talking about footy trains a lot, but I hadn't even considered that. And Caliph, I know that was a town that I saw along the railway line somewhere. And I reckon I'll have to go back, but I did miss a couple. And I do actually need to revisit because, you know, when you're trying to fit things into a couple of days, I just ended up missing some things that people did point out in the comments. So it gives me a great opportunity to go back. Moved on to Truro now. This is a shot of the old Truro station and precinct there. I'm actually not sure. It's actually looking west, this photo here. From what I can tell. Well, Caliph was obviously very important if it had two ovals, because most towns only had one oval, and even then they were lucky to have one oval. That's really interesting, Andy. I think that's a really, really interesting part of history, right? Set up with the train. Yeah, I just know that there's got to be some stories out there about footy trains and perhaps, you know, some of the socio-cultural stuff than the stories that happened back then. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to find out. So, yeah, here we are at Truro. I'm probably not going back and do that video again, although I did see a spike yesterday in my Barossa Valley Railways video that I also did 2 years ago. That's been shared somewhere, and I don't know where. And a lot of views have resulted out of that over the last couple of days. So here we are in the Barossa Valley. Here we are at, where is this? This is the River Light between Fords and Kapunda in 72. And this was a video that was one of my first videos that I did. One of my first, when I really started things up in early 2022. And coincidentally, it was probably Anzac Day that I was out there doing these shots. And yeah, between 1972 and 2022, aside from the trains and just everything being overgrown, this location hasn't changed one bit. Oh, and here's the same train at Morgan, right by the river. Who knew that book research would bring you so many things? And again, a really striking image of the bridge over the Broughton River as the train heads north towards Spalding. See how that way in the Millewa play out of Mildura and just use the names, colours of the old towns along the railway. See, that's another thing I've learned. Play out of Mildura. Oh, okay. Oh, here we go. This is getting deep now. As to why the smoke is so black, I reckon I've just been picking this up from my readings lately that there were oil burning steam locomotives, which I don't know if that makes them. Yeah, they're still steam, but they burnt oil. Or there was something else going on when they were washing the coal. Now we really need one of these bloody gather round matches to go into some real derelict places. Maybe we could get gather round to head out to Galga next year. That would be truly Aussie, don't you think? And we're still in the books here. This is Hoyleton. Which photo? Yeah, that photo is near Yakka. Yeah. On the way, but you're kind of really close to Spalding by that point in time. The other line that goes through Yakka is the Peterborough line, and I'm probably going to go do that again at some stage. This is Hoylton, which is another reason why I kind of want to do that line again, or do some of those areas again. But not much remains of Hoylton. I can kind of pick out where the road is, but if you go to Hoylton these days and just try and understand what was here before, the rail all looks so clean and clear, and yeah, the good shed, and there's a little bit of that platform there, and I recognize this building. It takes a while to look at it because I've been there a couple of times in the last few years, but you would not imagine any of this kind of clean looking scenario going on. But yeah, definitely Yakka. That's right, it is the Gladstone line. You're right, Shano. Sorry, man. There's just so many lines up there, and you'd think I would have unpicked it by now. Anyway, I think we're moved back down. Oh no, this is Lochiel now. I'm just trying to remember. I knew I'd forget this when I was looking at these. This is a shot of the saltworks at Lochiel as well, which I've trudged along in another video from a couple of years back. Hoylton was a part of the Snowtown. Yeah, now it kind of looks like it, to be honest with you. Hoylton is a nice place to visit, as long as you don't stay too long. It's probably good. But back to Lochiel. Here we are on the shores of Lake Bumbunga. And yeah, there's an actual train in there hauling salt around. So that was really eye-opening. This is why you should go do book research. There's stuff you can't find on the internet. I think now we're into the Modelling the Railways convention. Like here's the Sleeps Hill Quarries near Linton. This is all the stuff that used to go on around those tunnels, which are now used for wine storage and fringe shows. Hoylton would have to be up there with one of the creepiest places I've been, that's for sure. Kind of places. There were a few dead ends along some of the Murray Mallee lines. But let's have a think about that. And where's the creepiest place that other people have been? You might remind me of some other strange places that you really didn't want to be at. But yeah, I do find myself in a lot of little country towns where I realize that, I'm probably the first person to come barreling up in a car all day long. And there's a reason why people, are out there. The pub is now, it wasn't the last few years, the pub at Hoylton. I don't know why anyone would open a pub at Hoylton. You gotta be kind of lost or really looking for something to find yourself in Hoylton. Where's another creepy place that I've been? Some of the places that are close to town, I find the places that are closer to town are more creepy than some of the others. So I might be looking at places in the mid north there, around Owen, Kapunda, Yadunda, all those kind of places, and you just Sedan and Canberra were also ones that I find a little bit creepy because of the reputation sort of those areas have for for farms and bikie fortresses basically. And so I'm also planning, now we're into state library photos, which are part of my research this week. I've been looking at photos for the Sleeps Hill line because we're getting into walking season now, and I can probably go down to some of the tunnel entrances where it's publicly available to have a look at the tunnel entrances. And this is the viaduct that was in place there, as well as the tunnels. So I just kind of saved them and put them aside until ready to go. But this area here of the Adelaide to Melbourne Railway has been completely rebuilt. That cutting is still there if you look on the train these days. But from what I can tell here by this cutting and whatnot, the main interstate line between Sydney and Melbourne just uses massive cuttings up here in the hills. You can see under and behind the viaduct and the tunnels on the left. Another view of the same thing from a different direction in a remarkably clear photo for something in the 1890s. And then also coming up, we got the Pitchy Ritchie line. So, and those of you who know the Port Augusta station would know that it kind of still looks like this. So I'm looking forward to exploring that and kind of drawing some parallels, I guess. You can even see the Island station in here. And this is from the early 1900s as well, I do believe. And obviously Pitchy Ritchie coming up. So again, I'm collecting photos and hoping and saving things like this for when the video comes up. This is a really clear photo of Woolshed Flat on the Pitchy Ritchie Railway. And here's some photos that Daryl sent me, actually. Thank you, Daryl, for sending those photos. But here's a photo of the old Renmark station. Now we're going into random photo land. We are going into random photo land, and we are at Renmark Station at the moment. Sorry, just refreshing everything there. And this was obviously when it was back at probably it's one of its most pristine stages. But if you go there these days, you just would not believe that there was anything like this standing there. And then we go out to Pinaroo and going back to, this is the last photo too, going back to way back to 1922, when they were busy cutting as much mallee root and mallee wood out of the mallee as they possibly could. And the railway lines were a huge part of that for firewood to the settled areas. Graffiti on the center block. Mootatunga was a settlement for Mootatunga. People lived out. A few lost the plot. Yeah, it's funny you should say that. The hills have eyes, sort of place. I think you're right. Some of these places are a bit like the hills have eyes. P Bingo is a little bit like that. Again, but that's kind of like because these people, I think, live out there for a reason. But yeah. You should send it to me still too, JK. I'll try and figure it out. But yeah, I know I'd love to be able to share more photos. If you guys have got photos that you think might be relevant in the chat here, then send them to me and we'll have a look. Again, with these stories too, man, or got things you might like me to chase up, they do store up here. So whether this video gets made this year or next year or whatever, I've got things planned for later in the year. We have locked in a set of dates and accommodation now, so we will be heading up to Coffs Harbour again later this year, and I'll be doing more New South Wales videos towards the end of the year as well. But if you can find out where there's a train station in the Mallee where someone sadly died or passed away or whatever, and there might be a story behind that I can tell, that'd be cool. I'd love to look into that. And again, this week I learned more about these footy trains and these football leagues that were played via trains. And I'm sure we'll, check it out. So I went to the Port Adelaide Library on Sunday and I picked up a couple of books. And so this is the book of the week I'm going to do because sooner rather than later, I think, I hope, I'm going to get this guy's next book. Well, it may not have been his next book, but I had a good read of The Train to Oodnadatta Whoop Whoop. Social History of the Afghan Express by a guy named John Wilson, the foreword by another guy. So this is a hardcover book. released by SAR Lions Books, and it was released in 2021. And it's one of those classic books. It starts with, lovely big illustration in there. And then we go through with a pictorial and a narrative history of the Trans-Australian Line, variously called the Great Northern Line, and I think the GAN, and it goes into really, really huge detail of John's research using Trove and other resources. But he obviously goes much deeper into the old microfiche newspaper resources, which is really, really interesting. So John Smith he's also done a book on the social history of the overland, where he looks at similar things to what I do, but really, really, really deeply. So if you can see his books, or if you do borrow books from the library, then look up John Wilson and look up his railway books, and you may even you'll be able to get them transferred to your nearest library to have a look at them, rather than having to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Having said that, I did pay for John Wilson's next book, which will be The Break of Gauge, a social history, or something like that. So that will be interesting. All right. Does anyone else have a go-to book on their bookshelf? Do you have a go-to book about? And I'll ask this of the Andy and O'Malley as well. Do you guys have a physical books that you go to still to do your research, or do you have physical resources that you keep on hand that you always keep going back to act as a reference for what you do in the digital space? So that's cool. The SA Country Football Digest. I think it's really important that we're able to bring something out of these books, because I'm not writing books, but I think there's a lot to come out of books that will just kind of die in books, libraries and books and all that kind of stuff. Let's face it, they're slowly dying and rotting away. So that's part of my project, and to do it in a much more condensed way than John did it in The Train to Udna Whoop Whoop. It's actually a bit of a difficult read, if I'm honest. I think it could have done with some more attention to layout and whatnot, but the information is absolutely spot on. Udlawira at Lancelot. Okay. So I'm having a look at this. I was up at Dawson near Udlawira. Small town. Yes. Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's a cool spot. There's a couple of ways that the railway ran through all that area between Udlawira and Yunta, and ran through the ranges there, and I think Lancelot might have been on one of those. The book The 80s is a great pick for, maybe, is it this book the 80s? I think either I got some of those photos actually from that book about country broad gauge lines in South Australia. That might have been it. So I'll post it up in one of my forums somewhere. I'll put it online, the title of the book that I did have in front of me there at the State Library. There's a book on the Vic Mallee. Peter Lyons has written. I reckon you might have mentioned to me Peter Lyons at one stage, O'Malley, before, and country footy history books. And I find that really, really interesting, and it's really important that people take the time to go into such detail and drag all of this stuff out of the microfiche catalogues and out of the book catalogues. I don't even know what I'm looking for most of the time when I go into libraries. I just know that I'm just flicking through physical records, and that's how you find things. So yeah, whereas internet research can be a lot different. Yeah, I will. I'll check out Peter Lines. Well, now that I'm back in the library book borrowing cycle again, I should definitely look them up and see if they can provide some clues as to kind of stuff that I look at in terms of the railways, because often that's how you find things. You guys will know this. Sometimes you're searching down a different line of inquiry and you'll find references back to your original research subject. And so some of the GMH Holden railway photos I might find out there if I'm looking harder at GMH factory workers and whatnot, and rail would have been part of how they got to work, but you won't necessarily find that filed in any way with a reference to rail. So, yeah, that's some of these guys go to outrageous depths as well, which is something that's just out of the question for me, working more than full time at the moment. So at this stage, I'm just trying to keep up with maybe a video a month, maybe a few shorts a month, but something that's at least a considered video that's a lot different to what's out there, and hopefully progresses my channel library on a little bit more. But that's about where I'm going to be for the next 12 months or so. It's probably about a video a month, maybe a couple, because they do take hours and hours to make still. Okay, so that's it, folks. I know I kind of wigged out early and stole about 20 minutes there by just playing my old video from the beginning. The Lancelot settlement ended up being Petersburg, which is Peterborough, yeah. All right, cool. I'm definitely going to have to check out that book, O'Malley, year by year from the inception. Bit of train history. Well, I'd love to see their point of view on a different side of history, which was different to what they were looking at. So yes, I do reckon I've heard that story too, Kaznik, and I'd have to reference it again. But yeah. Ooh. Thanks, John, for the like promotion. Absolutely love being here and doing this research and showing everybody all that. But tonight we have been going for about 50 minutes now, and this is generally how we roll. Who else is going to be up early for the dawn service tomorrow? I know I would like to be up early for the local dawn service. It's a small sacrifice to make. So, thank you to everybody who came on board. Who we got? History Hunter Down Under. We got Pete Donaldson. We got JK back again. Thank you again for reminding me that yet again I'd managed to not have my sound turned on. I just accidentally hit a mouse button and closed my chat window. And who else have we got? We got O'Malley, Andy, Re-L, thank you. Mate, thank you for coming on board. Really appreciate it. O'Malley, always appreciate your input. Kaznik, you know what you're talking about and always learn more things from you as well. Shayna Ace, again, another person that I learn a lot from your contributions as well. Andy Munro, keep asking the questions. Love it. Look forward to hearing more. And shout outs to all the lurkers as well, because there's been a whole bunch of lurkers tonight. And don't forget, you can always pipe up. So we'll be here at 8:15 p.m. next Wednesday, just like we are every Wednesday. And until next Wednesday, lest we forget.